The teacher-learner ratio and its effect on invitational teaching and learning, a South African case study presented by Professor Roy Venkatesamy from the University of Free State, South Africa, and Dr. Zijing Yu from the University of Johannesburg, South Africa. An introduction to the teacher-learner ratio and its effect on invitational teaching and learning in South Africa. Post-1994, the Department of Education developed the new teacher-learner ratio policy. The teacher-learner ratio policy for primary schools mandated that each class should have a minimum of 40 learners to one teacher, and in secondary schools, the teacher-learner ratio is 1:35. As a result of the increased number of learners in each classroom, there was growing discontent among teachers, parents, and lobby groups for education. According to the Department of Education, its rationale was, we need to give access and accommodate all learners in our schools. The department was fastidious in its view that every learner should be accommodated in every school. What is teacher-learner ratio? Teacher-learner ratio refers to the number of learners in a classroom to one teacher. According to Venkatesamy, Smart, and Singh, they believe that the teacher-learner ratio has an effect on quality invitational education, and this is impeded by the rapid changes and accompanying problems such as overcrowded classrooms, inadequate educational facilities, poor discipline among learners, and a loss of vision for the future. What caused the influx of learners into schools? There were various factors that contributed to an increase in the learner enrolling at schools, especially in the urban areas. Research has found that there were mass migration of learners from rural and township schools wanting to enroll at ex-Model C schools. What was the reason for this? Many of the ex-Model C schools, which were mainly in the urban areas, were well resourced. Parents found that within these ex-Model C schools, teachers were better qualified and they provided appropriate support and services to their learners. Another factor that parents took into consideration to move their children into the urban areas were because of the language factor. In most rural and township schools, the language of teaching and learning is mainly the mother tongue, that is, one of the many African languages in the country. Most parents wanted their learners or their children to learn through the medium of English. Furthermore, it was found that in the urban areas, learners were exposed to additional support, especially curricular and co-curricular activities. There were after-school care services that were being provided to learners. Most parents were also working in the urban areas and therefore found that enrolling their children in urban schools was a priority. What parents also complained about was that township schools and rural schools were severely under-resourced, and therefore parents wanted their children to get the best education, thus moving them to the urban areas. The aim of this study was to explore the effect of the teacher-learner ratio on invitational teaching and learning. For the purpose of this study, the primary research question that was coined was, how does the teacher-learner ratio affect invitational teaching and learning? The null hypothesis stated there is no significant difference between the teacher-learner ratio and invitational teaching and learning. Literature review. An explanation of invitational teaching and learning. Invitational teaching and learning education aims at creating a total school environment that intentionally summons teachers and learners to realize their potential in all areas of worthwhile human endeavor and to make classrooms the most inviting place in town, according to Perkey. Haig agrees that an invitational education environment is created by the teacher and learners to promote quality teaching and learning. He argues that within this environment, learners are positively encouraged or invited into an educational experience by the teacher. For this study, the researchers opted for a theoretical framework designed by William Perkey and Kim Novak, the invitational learning theory. This theory argues that the 5 P's, namely people, places, policies, programs, and processes, are closely interrelated and work harmoniously together to ensure that quality teaching and learning take place within an educational environment. Perkey and Novak identified and designed the starfish as a metaphor for the promotion of invitational teaching and learning. Within the invitational theory, this study mainly focused on the people, the places, the process, and the programs. Within an educational environment, and especially in the teaching and learning classroom, the focus was on ensuring a trusting, respectful, optimistic, caring, accessible, courteous, and intentional relationship between teachers and learners. Regarding the place, the classroom environment, the aim was to ensure that the environment is functional, attractive, clean, efficient, aesthetic, personal, and warm. Regarding the programs in the school, the focus was on ensuring that the program is enriching, stimulating, helpful, interactive, constructive, developmental, and engaging. Regarding the processes to be instituted within an invitational environment, the focus was on ensuring academic excellence, interdisciplinary, encouraging, democratic, cooperative, collaboration, and evaluative. Regarding the policies, this is from the perspective of the government or the National Department of Education. The focus was on ensuring that policies are inclusive, that they're fair, equitable, tolerant, defensible, consistent, and just. However, in this study, teachers' complaint vociferously regarding the policies and the principles embedded in the invitational teaching and learning theory. The research methodology adopted for this study was a mixed method. The researchers used both qualitative and quantitative data. The sampling was very purposive in that the focus was on primary school teachers, the reason being that there was an increase in the number of learners in each class. According to the policy, it was 1:40. However, most primary schools in South Africa do not maintain the 1:40. There are classes that have more than 40 learners. The data was collected through an interview questionnaire which was sent to identify teachers in primary schools in the lower south coast of the Durban area. The questionnaire consisted of both open and closed-ended questions. The closed-ended questions used the format of a 5 scale, that is the Likert scale. The identified participants were 150 primary school teachers. The qualitative data was analyzed thematically, whilst the quantitative data was statistically analyzed using the chi-square method. The data was submitted to a statistician at the university who presented the outputs which the researchers analyzed. In identifying the themes for the qualitative data, the researchers followed Creswell's 6 steps, namely reviewing the raw data, coding the data, recognizing the initial themes, reviewing the themes, refining the themes, and answering the research question. What did our research find? According to the statistical data, more than 70% of the participants agreed that the teacher-learner ratio impacts on the quality of teaching and learning. 65% indicated that the majority of the problems experienced by teachers in primary schools was discipline in their classrooms. 80% indicated that they could not support all learners in their classroom to ensure quality invitational education. More than half, 60% indicated that overcrowding in the classroom restricted their movements to fully engage with the learners. Therefore, according to the null hypothesis, that there is no significant difference between the teacher-learner ratio and invitational can therefore be rejected. It can be said that the teacher-learner ratio has an impact on invitational teaching and learning. According to the qualitative data, teachers agreed that large classes do not promote the principles of invitational teaching and learning and do not adhere to the powerful 5 Ps, or according to the starfish metaphor. Many teachers indicated that a lack of resources compromised their teaching and learning. School management showed little or no support for the teachers' difficult classroom environment. According to one teacher, a principal told her, "Make it work. It's not my rule, it's the department." Most teachers are faced with this kind of responses from the school management, thus leaving them in a state of difficulty, and they feel that they are not being supported accordingly to promote quality invitational teaching and learning. What does this study recommend? The findings revealed and the recommendations emanated from the findings highlight the following. The Department of Education needs to revisit the teacher-learner ratio policy, failing which they believe that schools should appoint teacher assistants in class to support teachers during the teaching and learning. It was also recommended that school leaders should have the right to indicate to the respective departments that their schools are full to capacity and that they cannot accept or accommodate any more learners in their classes. It was also recommended that more teaching staff should be employed either through the department or the school governing body to help reduce class size. Another recommendation, especially regarding infrastructure and resources, more classrooms should be built to accommodate more learners, and appropriate resources should be made available in all schools. Finally, teachers indicated that parents should become involved in assisting them in their classrooms. A suggestion was the introduction of reading mums, whereby parents can take a group of learners, especially in primary schools, to assist them to listen to the reading. This strategy, which was implemented in some schools, worked tremendously and promoted teaching and learning. Furthermore, participants agreed that parents should become involved in assisting them in co-curricular activities, especially sports. Thank you for giving us this opportunity of sharing the teacher-learner ratio studied in South Africa. Thank you.